From the High Definition Production Center of Troy University's Broadcast and Digital Network from Alabama's International University, this is Troy TrojanVision Midday.
Hello, and thank you for watching Troy TrojanVision News. I'm Kaylin Pledger, January 25th, 2018. A former ambassador of the Servant Union on campus sharing his experience while serving ambassador residents. Dr. Matlock visit by speaking Alabama World Council of Montgomery Madison Neal story from Montgomery Bureau.
The relationship between the United States and Russia was the topic of discussion at the Alabama World Affairs Council on Tuesday night, and guests had the opportunity to hear from a former ambassador to the USSR, Dr. Jack Matlock.
Obviously, relations now with Russia are bad, and that's unfortunate. In fact, I think it's unacceptable because Russia is the other major nuclear power. The two of us hold over 90% of the nuclear weapons in the world.
And Matlock said this mutual advantage between the United States and Russia is critical to ensuring international stability.
Our enemies are the same terrorists are going after both of us. We as the major nuclear powers are the mainly guarantors that these won't be used, because it could not only destroy us, but everybody else.
Ambassador Matlock traveled here to Troy University's Montgomery campus to discuss the relationship between the United States and Russia, both past and present. And one student in attendance explains why it's important to maintain our international relationships.
I mean, if right now you look at the world, it's in a dangerous place, and right now we can be worried about like a war or not, or like, you know, you have to be ready for whatever is coming. So I feel like it's very important for everyone to actually know what is going on in the world.
Matlock's visit with the World Affairs Council was part of his visit to Alabama, serving as Troy University's ambassador in residence. In Montgomery, Madison Neal, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Matlock will speak on Troy's campus this afternoon at 2:30 in the Reinhardt Auditorium in the Math and Science Complex. We will also hear more from Matlock about his visit to campus on today's edition of Trojan Talk. The holiday break and been delayed due to the snow last week. The Student Government Association is back in session. Tuesday night, the group met in the Hall of Honor to set goals and plan events for the new semester. Brady Talbert has the story.
The Student Government Association is back this semester. And while this meeting was relatively casual, the ideas could still be considered sharp. Tuesday night, SGA members reflected on last semester and set goals for spring of 2018.
We want students to recognize the faces of senators, to see them when they're walking around classes or walking around campus, or if they have classes with them, to be able to ask them questions, to be able to express concerns, and to really be able to build a relationship with their representatives.
The student government is also planning events that advocate and center around diversity and inclusion.
So this is something a little bit new, and really what we're going to do this week is really promote positive thinking. We want to have events on campus that are not super big events, but events where students can come and go, push people to think about things that they may not normally think about, to consider different perspectives, and to really, just push people to grow as an individual.
The SGA is also preparing to welcome some fresh faces with some new ideas as the Senate vacancy election approaches.
The senators that we have currently have been serving for the whole school year, and these new senators are going to bring new ideas, new perspectives that we can address to the administration.
Senate elections will be held January 31st. The link to vote will be sent to students through their Troy email. Voting is a duty Holt believes students should consider.
I encourage all students to vote. These are the representatives of the campus that are going to represent you, and they are going to do things for you to make this campus better.
SGA's Diversity and Inclusion Week will kick off on February 5th out on the main quad. Brady Talbert, Troy, TrojanVision News.
The next SGA meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday at 6:30 in Bill Graves Room 129. When many of the folks around here want to put their toes in the sand and have a little fun in the sun, they head south to the Gulf Coast. However, the area lovingly referred to as the Redneck Riviera has an interesting history, and Troy student had the chance to hear about it Tuesday night. Stuart Bradley has the story.
You wanted a vacation, but got a history lecture instead. Last night, author Harvey Jackson was invited to give a history lesson on one of Alabama's most popular vacation spots. Jackson is a former Jacksonville State history professor as well as an established author. He's written books on the environment and the American Revolution. His last book, which was also the subject of last night's storytelling, was The Rise and Decline of the Redneck Riviera, to which he has a personal connection to the location.
I've been coming down here since I was 9 or 10 years old. I virtually felt like I grew up on the coast.
The book chronicles the history of the Emerald Coast, aka the Redneck Riviera, that went from a vacation spot to a place full of spring breakers and investment gurus.
I guess you could say in a way I started working on it before I even started working on it, when I was, just growing up here. But the actual hardcore research probably took about 2 or 3 years. The writing itself another year to a year and a half.
Jackson's talk last night was a history and a bit of a reflection on the Riviera, focusing on its evolution as a vacation spot.
It was where people from the lower south went to vacation when they got vacations. It grew up as more and more people wanted to come down here. People began seeing it as an opportunity to make some money. People also saw it as an opportunity to have some fun, and that's where it is today.
Jackson has presented at a few other schools already, and when he came to Troy, he brought his knowledge of the Riviera, his sense of humor, and in the end seemed to impress the audience, who would leave with good knowledge of where most of them would be spending spring break. Stuart Bradley, Troy, TrojanVision News.
The Mitchell McPherson Lecture on Southern History is presented annually by Troy Department of History and Philosophy. And now for a look at what's happening across the country and around the world, we go to Lydia at the Global News Desk.
Authorities have not yet identified the 15-year-old suspect in Tuesday's deadly school shooting in Benton, Kentucky. Investigators say 2 students were killed in the attack at Marshall County High School. 14 others were shot and 4 others hurt while trying to escape. Adriana Diaz has the latest from Benton.
It still doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it actually happened.
Moments after arriving at school, teenagers were scrambling for cover as their fellow student began shooting.
It sounded like there was a fight. Someone was hitting on the window. I took out my headphones and turned around, and everyone was just broken up.
The school immediately went into lockdown, but some students had already fled the grounds.
I took off. I started running. I was scared for my life.
5 shots fired, 4 down at the high school at Marshall.
Police arrived to the school just 7 minutes after the first 911 call. They quickly found the gunman and arrested him.
He was apprehended by the sheriff's department here on site at the school, thankfully before any more lives could be taken.
Frantic parents raced to the chaotic scene, hoping to find their children.
You don't think it's going to happen here, and like I said, as soon as you hear it, it's terrifying.
5 of the victims were airlifted to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. Preston Ryan Cope died at the hospital. Bailey Nicole Holt was killed at the scene. They were both 15. Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin.
And this is a wound that is going to take a long time to heal. And for some in this community will never fully heal.
The shooter is expected to be charged with 2 counts of murder and multiple counts of attempted murder. The county attorney says
President Trump could soon face questioning from special counsel Robert Mueller. The president's lawyers are negotiating.
President Trump could soon face questioning about the firing of former FBI Director James Comey, as well as any possible collusion with Russia during the presidential election. Mola Lingyi has more details from the White House.
We're ready. President Trump could soon face questioning from special counsel Robert Mueller. The president's lawyers are negotiating how and when an interview with Mueller's team will happen, and a face-to-face interview is a definite possibility. Mueller appears to be focusing in on an obstruction of justice case centering around the firing of former FBI Director James Comey. Comey was fired last May. He has testified to Congress that while he led the FBI, the president asked him for a pledge of loyalty and asked him to help lift the cloud of suspicion surrounding the investigation into Russian interference in the election. Shortly after Comey's firing, the president asked acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe who he voted for in the election. McCabe reportedly told the president he didn't vote.
Jeff Sessions is the highest-ranking official to be interviewed in the Mueller investigation, but President Trump says he is not worried about what his attorney general had to say.
I'm not at all concerned. Thank you all very much.
Sessions recused himself from the Russia investigation after it was revealed he misled Congress about his own contacts with Russia's ambassador. He was also heavily involved in the decision to fire Comey.
I think the president has to be concerned. Certainly his lawyers have to be concerned.
Kim Whaley is a former federal prosecutor who was an independent counselor during the Whitewater investigation. She says the Mueller probe has already impacted the White House.
We have 2 guilty pleas and we have 2 indictments, and those are not even, the top people. So I think there has to be concern in the White House.
The White House insists President Trump has done nothing wrong. Mola Lenghi, CBS News, the White House.
And that's your news from across the country and around the world. Now back to you, Kaylin.
Coming up on TrojanVision Midday, we will hear more Troy's ambassador in residence, Dr. Jack Matlock, in today's Trojan Talk. Plus, it's been a couple of cold days this week. Ashley Brown, what can we expect for the remainder of the week? Ashley will have that up coming up for us next in weather.
Here we are. We all depend on technology to communicate, to bank, and none of us know how to read and write code.
The first program I wrote asked things like, what's your favorite color? Or how old are you?
I wrote a program to play tic-tac-toe.
I first learned how to make a green circle and a red square appear on the screen.
You're just trying to make something, trying to transfer something from your mind to the computer or to a tablet. It's an experience.
The whole limit in the system is just that there just aren't enough people who are trained and have these skills today.
The programmers of tomorrow are the wizards of the future. You know, you're going to look like you have magic powers compared to everybody else.
Great coders are today's rock stars. That's it.
From the High Definition Production Center of Troy University's Broadcast and Digital Network, now your weather on Troy TrojanVision News.
Thank you for staying tuned for your TrojanVision weather update. It has been a couple of cold days, but we're going to see a little bit of rain this weekend. More on that after our current conditions. Currently, the skies are sunny. We're seeing 51-degree temperature and a 41% relative humidity. The pressure is at 30.54 inches. All right, so looking at our daily almanac, we see a high of 51 degrees and a low of 31 degrees with no chance of rain. And as we look around the state, we see cooler temperatures from yesterday. Huntsville yesterday was at 53 degrees and now it's at 43. And Dothan is at 53 and Troy is at 51. And as we look around the greater southeast, we see these cool temperatures everywhere. Florida is getting the warmer temps. And if we zoom out a lot, we see that Florida and a little bit of Texas are the only places that's reaching 50-degree temperatures. And the rest are experiencing way cooler temps. And as we look for the next few days, we don't see any rain for Friday, but Saturday we will see some, and also Sunday. And it'll clear out by Monday. We might see some warmer temperatures. For tonight, we'll have clear skies with a low of 32 degrees and winds coming from the east at 5 miles per hour. Tomorrow, we'll see mostly sunny skies, a high of 63 degrees, and winds coming in from the east at 5 to 10 miles per hour. As we look at the next 4 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we'll see temperatures in the low 60s, and then we have a low of 49 degrees tonight, 53 Saturday night, a low of 49 Sunday, and a low of 32 Sunday night. And we'll see that rain on Saturday and Sunday, 40% on Saturday and 80% on Sunday. So, Kaylin, make sure you get your rain jacket and umbrella ready.
Oh, I will. It's already in the car ready for me. Coming up on Troy TrojanVision Midday, an Illinois car crash left more than car debris in the streets. What was it? Stay tuned to find out. And the basketball team hope to knock off the Warhawks tomorrow. Find out more with Carissa Justice coming up in sports.
No doubt you're going places, young lady.
Thank you. And thank you for the interview as well. I can imagine it was the last thing that you wanted to do after such a long campaign meeting.
You really are a very intelligent young woman. You're very smooth.
You're very smooth yourself.
You have no idea.
At Troy University, our Trojan warrior spirit is manifest in a culture of caring. Our military men and women around the world are making great sacrifices every day. They recognize, and we recognize, freedom is not free. Somebody is paying that price, and we need to support them, and that's what we seek to do. Trojan warrior spirit is reflective not of just a university, but of a way of life.
Now, the latest in Trojan sports on Troy TrojanVision News.
Hello and welcome to Troy TrojanVision Sports. I'm Carissa Justice. The men's basketball team currently has a 3-4 conference record, but will have a chance to get back to 500 as they travel to take on the ULM Warhawks tonight in Monroe, Louisiana. And it looks promising for the Trojans as ULM has won just one Sun Belt game with 2 15-point losses in the past 3 outings. Regardless of Monroe's past play, head coach Phil Cunningham says this will be a grinded-out game.
Monroe is a team that reminds me a lot of Coastal Carolina. Their record doesn't reflect how close they are. They've lost several games down to the last 1 or 2 minutes. A well-coached team, leading the league in three-point percentage. Be a tough place to play. It'll be another grinded-out game. There's going to be a lot of grinded-out games like you saw Saturday and Monday in this league this year.
Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. and will be available on the Troy Sports Radio Network. With 11 regular season games remaining, the women's basketball team will be looking to make a jump in the Sun Belt Conference standings as it kicks off a 2-game road swing at ULM on Thursday at 5 p.m. The Trojans currently sit in 8th, just a half game behind UT Arlington, and are aiming to put together conference wins in the Sun Belt play for the second time this season. ULM is on a 4-game skid and just a game out of the Sun Belt basement. The Trojans have won 2 straight in the all-time series, including a 94-67 victory last season. The Trojans may look to some younger players to help out. Kayla Robinson turned in solid performances in the team's last 2 games, averaging 18.5 points and 8 assists over that span. Head coach Chanda Rigby says that Kayla Robinson is ready to play big girl basketball.
She's just been talking about confidence, confidence, confidence. When she has confidence, she plays. It's really hard to stop her. And I think she's turned that corner of thinking, well, I'm just a sophomore. I think she's ready to come on up and play big girl basketball right now.
Both teams will be back in Trojan Arena on February 3rd to take on rival South Alabama. And the women's tennis team opened their season last weekend at the Lunsford Tennis Complex. It was the first of 2 weekends on the home courts. Troy had a successful weekend at home, picking up a few wins in their 2018 debut. Last weekend, the Trojans were in tournament play, but this weekend they will face only one opponent, Sun Belt Conference foe Georgia Southern. Coach Rawia El-Sisi says the team is excited to be able to start the season off at home.
We're prepared, we're ready. Good to be home, not traveling. Save us a lot of driving in January. Girls are excited, you know. We're used to, even if it gets cooler, we're used to the weather because that's where we train at. We're used to the court. So that's a good thing for January to start with, and we're going to start traveling back, you know, like in February.
The Trojans will play Georgia Southern Sunday starting at 11 at the Lunsford Tennis Complex. Well, Kaylin, it looks like both our men's and women's basketball teams have some big games ahead of them, so let's hope they can come out with a win.
Yes, I hope they win all their games they have coming up in the season. Thank you, Krista. As we mentioned earlier, Dr. Jack Matlock is currently serving as ambassador in residence for Troy University. Aaron Taylor sits down with Matlock to talk about his visit in today's edition of Trojan Talk.
Hello and welcome to Trojan Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. My guest today is Dr. Jack Matlock, ambassador in residence here at Troy University. Thank you for joining me here today.
Delighted to be here.
And you are the ambassador in residence here at Troy University, an opportunity to share your experience with the students here at Troy University. So tell me, how does it make you feel to be able to share your years as an ambassador and experience with these students?
Oh, I love to do this. And it's really great to keep in touch with the generation of students now. You know, they know so much more than I did when I was a student. It really impresses me.
And your years of experience heavily with the Soviet Union as an ambassador there, and have a lot of experience with Russia, and you get a chance to talk to folks nowadays. about Russia, and do you get a lot of folks asking questions about how things with Russia compares to back in the Cold War era?
Yes, people are, they hear a lot about it, and I get a lot of questions. And because, I think our relations with Russia are extremely important. It's not that the U.S. and Russia decides everything in the world. We don't. But the fact is that we're both nuclear powers. That gives us a great responsibility. But also the broader problems in the world that we face, whether it's a nuclear power, whether it's terrorism, whether it's global warming, we're not going to be able to solve them without cooperation from countries like Russia and China and India.
And so when you speak to the students here at Troy University, what are some of the lessons you hope that they can take away from your experience?
Basically, I tried to explain how many people, including many of our educators, misinterpret the Cold War. I think we make a mistake when we say we won the Cold War, because actually we negotiated an end to their benefit as well as ours. Also, people think that the Soviet Union collapsed because of the Cold War. No, it collapsed not because we forced their collapse. It collapsed for internal pressure after the Cold War had ended, and it was something that the United States didn't even want to happen. So the idea that we were victorious and that we brought an end to the Soviet Union and an end to the Cold War by military pressure, it gets it backwards and gives us the impression that, oh, we can use our strength, our military power, to change other countries if we don't like what they're doing. And we get into a lot of trouble when we try that.
And from a perspective, a foreign relations perspective and your experience, how important is it to be able to teach students about the necessity of foreign relations and having ambassadors such as yourself and other individuals working these channels and working between the governments?
Well, obviously, we're better off in a peaceful world than one that threatens our lives. And we live in a world which is not going to be peaceful unless the most powerful countries conduct diplomacy among them. Therefore, our diplomacy is vital for the well-being of our country. It has been in the past, it continues to be. So I think no matter what the students are interested in, and most will probably be more interested in domestic issues, but we need a cadre of people experienced in dealing with others. Business and other things are increasingly worldwide. And by the way, I think what this university is doing overseas in many countries, including China, is very encouraging. I think that's exactly the direction we need to go. And I think we have to make sure that our students get the experience of dealing with people in other cultures.
And of course, especially a student there, maybe majoring in political science or something along those lines, thinking about diplomacy as a career. What would it take for somebody to try to maybe focus their goals towards getting into foreign relations and diplomacy?
Well, there are several types of jobs. We have a foreign service, professional diplomacy. One gets in there by examination. First, a written examination, and then a very competitive sort of oral one. I would say that those students who are interested in the Foreign Service start taking the Foreign Service examination. Doesn't matter if you fail at first. I had colleagues that had successful careers that tried 3 times before they got in. The main thing is you can start learning. Now, basically, that exam, it expects you to know a lot about the United States. And also it helps to have an interest in the knowledge, at least of the geography of the rest of the world, and at least one more language. Though even that is not an absolute requirement, because once you're in the Foreign Service, you will get training in those languages that you need. But obviously, to get a head start on those is very important.
Of course. Well, here's hoping that students here will be able to glean some knowledge from you, and maybe those that have goals towards that direction will be able to do that. Now, I want to thank you for joining me here today on Trojan Talks.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, thank you. And thank you for joining us on today's edition of Trojan Talk.
A new study says neurodegenerative brain disease, CTE, is not caused by concussion. Here's James Denton with more in today's Health Minute.
According to a recent study published in the journal Brain, it's not concussions that cause CTE, the Alzheimer's-like disease known as chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
This paper provides the best evidence to date that CTE is triggered not by concussion, but rather by hits to the head, irregardless of whether it results in concussion or not.
The study says CTE can start early and without any signs of a concussion.
The vast, overwhelming majority of hits are occurring and no one's paying attention.
CTE has most commonly been associated with former professional football players. But the study of 4 deceased athletes' brains, all of whom had died within a day to 4 months of receiving some sort of sport-related head injury and had a history of playing football, found changes to the brain that had already existed. For today's Health Minute, I'm James Dinan.
An Illinois highway was shut down following a car accident. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured, but crews had to clean up more than just the wreck. The accident left the roadway littered with money. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
An Illinois crash led to a road full of cash. The crash took place on I-74 near Mahomet and involved a car and a truck. The crash resulted in a large amount of cash being thrown from one of the vehicles, which then had to be meticulously cleaned up by authorities. Only minor injuries were reported in the incident. Traffic was blocked for an hour following the accident. Police say the money was from a video game parlor. Yeah, he will come. Hey, who knew the voice meant some jerk? Because some jerk came and drove a vehicle through the iconic Field of Dreams baseball field in Dyersville, Iowa. The site was the filming location of the beloved 1989 movie starring Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones. Police say the vehicle left behind deep tracks which have now frozen over. Crews will have to wait until the tracks thaw to repair the damage. Total costs are estimated in the thousands as the incident also damaged a sprinkler system. A GoFundMe account was set up to help fund repairs and install a security system at the site. Let's hope this story's ending will be as happy as the film's.
Hey, Dad? You want to have a catch?
No, I'm not crying. You're crying. Or take a look at this. No, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Well, we are just about out of time, but before we go, we will get another look at weather. Ashley, what is it looking like for us for the next few days?
Okay, again tonight we'll see clear skies with a low of 32 degrees with winds coming from the east at 5 miles per hour. And tomorrow we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high of 63 degrees and winds coming from the east again, 5 to 10 miles per hour. And for the next 4 days, on Friday we'll see a high of 63. And that'll continue through Saturday and Sunday. And then on Saturday, we'll expect the rain 40%. And then on Sunday, we'll see an 80% chance of rain. So don't forget to pull out your umbrellas and rain boots. And that's your weather update. Now back to the news desk.
Thanks, Ashley. That's all the time we have for TrojanVision Midday. For all of us here at TrojanVision, thanks for joining us. Have a thrilling Thursday.